Dr. Amy Chun had never expected her career as a water scientist to make her the most important person on Earth. 3 days after first contact, she found herself sitting in the Pentagon's most secure briefing room, surrounded by generals, politicians, and other experts who all wanted to understand what humanity had stumbled into. The room was packed beyond capacity. Secretary of Defense Robert Clark sat at the head of the long table, while President Martinez appeared on the main screen via secure video link. Amy felt completely out of place among all the powerful people, but she was the only one who truly understood water on a planetary scale. Dr. Chun, President Martinez said from the screen, please explain to us exactly what we're dealing with. Here, Amy cleared her throat and stood up. She had spent the last 3 days learning everything the Zealoty were willing to share about galactic history. What she had discovered was both fascinating and terrifying. Mr. President, according to our alien visitors, the galaxy experienced what they call the Great Drying approximately 50,000 years ago. It was a catastrophic event that affected nearly every star system. General Murphy, chairman of the Joint Chiefs, leaned forward. What kind of event could affect an entire galaxy? The Zealoty aren't completely sure, Amy replied. Their records from that time are incomplete. But they described something they call a quantum cascade. It was some kind of stellar phenomenon that moved through the galaxy like a wave. She activated the holographic display in the center of the table. A three-dimensional map of the galaxy appeared, with thousands of points of light representing star systems. This wave changed the fundamental structure of water molecules on most worlds. The H2O that we know became something else entirely. The Zealoty call it dead water. It looks the same, but it can't support life the way real water can. How is that possible? Asked Dr. Williams from the National Science Foundation. Think of it like this, Amy said, trying to keep her explanation simple. Imagine if someone went through every library in the world and changed all the letter A's into a symbol that looked exactly the same, but meant something completely different. The books would look normal, but they wouldn't make sense anymore. President Martinez spoke again. How many worlds were affected? Amy took a deep breath. According to Zealoty records, 99.7% of all water-bearing planets in the galaxy lost their real water during the Great Drying. The room fell silent. Amy could see people doing the math in their heads, trying to understand the scope of what she was describing. That means, said Secretary Clark slowly, that Earth is one of the only planets in the galaxy with real water. Not just one of the only, Amy corrected. According to the Zealoty, Earth has more pure water than the rest of the galaxy combined. Every other surviving water source is either tiny or heavily contaminated. She changed the display to show Earth. Compared to other known water sources, even the largest alien water reserves looked like puddles next to Earth's vast oceans. Why wasn't Earth affected? Asked General Murphy. The Zealoty have a theory about that, Amy said. They think it has to do with our planet's magnetic field and our position in the galaxy. Earth was protected by what they call a quantum shadow. The wave passed right over us. CIA Director Johnson had been quiet until now. Dr. Chun, what do the aliens use for water if they don't have the real thing? Amy pulled up another display showing various alien technologies. Most civilizations use synthetic alternatives. They can create something that looks and tastes like water, but it doesn't have the same properties. Their bodies can survive on it, but they don't thrive. What do you mean by thrive? President Martinez asked. Real water does more than just keep you alive, Amy explained. The Zealoty told me that civilizations with access to pure water live longer, think more clearly, and heal faster from injuries. They can also use real water to power advanced technologies that synthetic water can't run. Dr. Williams looked skeptical. That sounds almost magical. It's not magic, Amy said. It's quantum mechanics. Real water has properties at the molecular level that synthetic water lacks. The Zealoty tried to explain it to me, but their science is far beyond ours. General Murphy stood up and began pacing. So what you're telling us is that we have something that every civilization in the galaxy desperately needs. Not just needs, Amy corrected. Craves. The Zealoty delegation has been asking for more water samples every few hours. They say drinking real water is like coming back to life after being half dead for centuries. Secretary Clark looked grim. What are the security implications here? Amy had been dreading this question. Sir, the Zealoty told me that wars have been fought over single drops of real water. Entire star systems have been destroyed in conflicts over tiny water reserves. Now imagine what they'll do when they find out about our oceans. The room erupted in concerned murmurs. President Martinez called for quiet. Are the Zealoty a threat to us? The president asked. I don't think so, Amy replied. They seem genuinely peaceful. But they've already sent messages to something called the Galactic Trade Federation. Word is spreading that Earth exists and what we have here. How long before other civilizations arrive? Asked CIA Director Johnson. Amy checked her notes. The Zealoty estimate that we'll start seeing other ships within 2 to 3 weeks. Some will be peaceful traders. Others. She let the sentence hang in the air. General Murphy stopped pacing. Others will be hostile. The Zealoty warned me about something called the Korthek Empire, Amy said. They're a militaristic species that has built their entire economy around water scarcity. They control most of the synthetic water production in the galaxy. Earth represents a threat to their power. President Martinez leaned forward on the screen. Dr. Chun, in your professional opinion, how much water could we safely trade without damaging our own ecosystem? Amy had been running calculations since the first day. Mr. President, Earth's total water supply is massive. We could trade small amounts without any immediate impact, but we need to be very careful. Water isn't just a resource for us. It's the foundation of all life on our planet. How small are we talking about? Asked Dr. Williams. The Zealoty are asking for what they consider a tiny amount. To them, a single tanker full of our water will be worth more than entire star systems. To us, it would be like taking a teaspoon out of a swimming pool. Secretary Clark looked worried. But if word spreads about how much we have, then every civilization in the galaxy will want some, Amy finished. And some of them might not be willing to ask politely. The president was quiet for a long moment. Dr. Chun, what do the Zealoty suggest we do? Amy pulled out a thick document that had been translated from Zealoty. They're recommending that we apply for immediate membership in the Galactic Trade Federation. It will give us protection under galactic law and establish our rights to our own water. What would membership cost us? Asked General Murphy. That's the complicated part, Amy said. The Federation would expect us to share our water with member civilizations. They're talking about establishing quotas and trade agreements. Essentially, turning us into a water supplier for the galaxy, Secretary Clark said. Amy nodded, but the benefits could be enormous. The technology transfers alone would advance human civilization by thousands of years. We'd gain access to faster-than-light travel, advanced medicine, energy sources we can't even imagine. President Martinez studied the reports in front of him. Dr. Chun, if we don't join this federation, what happens? According to the Zealoty, we'd be on our own. Some civilizations might respect our independence, but others would see us as a target. An unprotected world with unlimited water would be too tempting to ignore. The room fell silent again as everyone absorbed the implications. Amy looked around at the faces of the most powerful people on Earth and realized they were all as overwhelmed as she was. Mr. President, General Murphy said finally, it sounds like we don't have much choice. Maybe not, President Martinez replied. But before we make any decisions, I want to know everything we can learn about this galaxy we're about to join. Dr. Chun, you'll be working directly with the Zealoty from now on. I want detailed reports on every civilization, every threat, and every opportunity. Amy nodded. 3 days ago, she had been studying underground aquifers in Montana. Now she was humanity's expert on galactic politics. The universe, it seemed, had a sense of humor. As the meeting broke up, Amy remained behind to study her notes. Outside the conference room windows, she could see the Potomac River flowing toward the sea. It looked the same as always, but now she knew it was more precious than diamonds. Humanity had always searched the stars for treasure. They never imagined the greatest treasure in the galaxy was flowing right beneath their feet. The stars looked different through the bridge windows of the horizon's edge. Captain Jake Morrison had been staring at them for 3 hours, waiting for something that might never come. His coffee had gone cold in the metal cup beside his chair. But he barely noticed. Today was supposed to be the day that changed everything for humanity. Still nothing on the sensors, Captain, said Lieutenant Amy Rodriguez from her station. She had been checking the same readings every 5 minutes for the past hour. The waiting was making everyone nervous. Jake rubbed his tired eyes. The ship had been stationed near Jupiter's fourth moon for 2 weeks now, ever since the radio signals started coming from empty space. The signals were clearly artificial, clearly intelligent, and clearly not human. After decades of searching the stars for signs of life, first contact was finally happening in humanity's own backyard. "Sir, I'm getting something," Rodriguez said suddenly, her voice tight with excitement. "Large object materializing off our starboard bow. It's huge." Jake stood up so fast his chair spun backward. Through the main view screen, space began to shimmer like heat waves rising from summer pavement. Then, as if someone was slowly turning up the brightness on a television, a massive ship appeared where nothing had been before. The alien vessel was unlike anything humans had ever imagined. It looked like someone had taken a mountain and taught it to fly. Its surface was covered in patterns that seemed to shift and change as they watched. Strange lights pulsed along its hull in colors that Jake's eyes couldn't quite process. "My God," whispered Dr. Lisa Park, the ship's xenobiologist. She had been called to the bridge the moment the signals first appeared. "It's beautiful. It's also pointing weapons at us," added Commander Bill Hayes, the ship's security chief. His hand moved instinctively toward his sidearm, though Jake knew it would be useless against something that advanced. The communications console crackled to life. A voice spoke in perfect English, though it sounded like it was coming from underwater. "Human vessel, we are the Zealoty Republic. We come in peace to establish first contact with your species. Request permission to board." Jake's heart hammered in his chest. This was it. The moment that would divide human history into before and after. He cleared his throat and tried to sound more confident than he felt. "Zealoty Republic, this is Captain Jake Morrison of the Earth vessel Horizon's Edge. Permission granted. We welcome you in peace." 20 minutes later, Jake stood in the ship's main conference room, trying not to stare at the 3 alien beings seated across from him. The Zealoty were tall and thin, with skin that looked like polished silver. Their eyes were larger than human eyes and completely black, like looking into deep space. They wore robes that seemed to be made of the same shifting material as their ship. The leader had introduced himself as Commander Vextar. When he spoke, his mouth barely moved, but his voice filled the room with strange harmonics that made Jake's teeth ache. "Captain Morrison, we have been watching your species for some time. Your people show promise, though you are still quite primitive compared to galactic standards." Jake felt his jaw tighten at the word primitive, but he kept his expression neutral. "We're eager to learn about the galaxy and our place in it." "Indeed," Vextar said. "However, we must be frank. Your species has little to offer the galactic community. Your technology is crude, your military weak, your culture chaotic. Most civilizations at your level of development are deemed unworthy of contact." Dr. Park leaned forward. "Then why are you here?" "Curiosity, mostly," replied another Zealoty, who had introduced herself as Scholar Kindle. "Your planet is unusual. Our long-range sensors detected some interesting readings from your world's surface. The meeting continued for another hour, with the zealothy explaining basic galactic politics and trade. Jake learned that there were hundreds of intelligent species spread across the galaxy, all connected by a vast network of trade routes and diplomatic agreements. Earth was so far on the outer rim that most civilizations didn't even know it existed. Perhaps we could arrange for a cultural exchange, Jake suggested. Our people could learn from yours, and maybe we could contribute something in return. The three aliens exchanged glances. Vexstar's expression, insofar as Jake could read it, seemed almost pitying. Captain, I fear you do not understand. Your species has nothing that galactic civilization needs or wants. Your metals are common, your technology's obsolete, your knowledge limited to a single world. The word stung, but Jake refused to give up. Surely there must be something. Our art, our music, our literature. We have seen millions of cultures rise and fall, Kindle said gently. Each believes itself unique. Few truly are. And uncomfortable. Silence fell over the room. Jake felt the weight of representing all humanity, and it seemed he was failing. Then Dr. Park spoke up. Would you like some refreshments? We have coffee, tea, or just water if you prefer. Water would be acceptable, Vexstar said. Park stepped over to the small kitchen area built into the conference room. She filled 3 glasses from the tap and brought them back to the table. Here you go, fresh from our recycling systems. She placed the glasses in front of each zealothy. Vexstar picked up his glass and examined it closely. His black eyes seemed to grow even larger as he studied the clear liquid. This is water? He asked, his voice barely above a whisper. Of course, Park said, looking confused. H2O, 2 hydrogen atoms, 1 oxygen atom. Pretty basic stuff. Vexstar brought the glass closer to his face. His hands were shaking. Scholar Kindle, please confirm what my sensors are telling me. The female zealotry pulled out a small device that looked like a crystal attached to a metal wand. She pointed it at the glass and studied the readings. Her silver skin somehow managed to grow pale. By the ancient stars, she breathed. It's pure. It's actually pure. What's pure? Jake asked, growing more confused by the moment. Instead of answering, Vexstar took a small sip of the water. His reaction was immediate and dramatic. His eyes rolled back, and he made a sound that might have been a moan of pleasure. He took another sip, then another, drinking faster and faster until the glass was empty. More, he gasped. Please, more. Park looked at Jake uncertainly. He nodded, and she refilled the glass. Vexstar drank it down just as quickly as the first. Commander, you're frightening our hosts, Kindle said. Though she was staring at her own glass with obvious longing, Vexstar set down his empty glass and looked directly at Jake. When he spoke, his voice was completely different. Gone was the casual superiority. Instead, he sounded almost reverent. Captain Morrison, I must ask you a very important question. How much of the substance does your world possess? Water? Jake said. I don't know exactly. Maybe 70%. Of our planet's surface? Plus ice caps, underground reserves, rivers, lakes? Why? The third zealothy, who had been silent until now, suddenly stood up. Impossible. The readings must be wrong. What readings? Dr. Park demanded. What's going on? Vexstar stood as well, and to Jake's amazement, he bowed deeply. Captain Morrison, Dr. Park, I must apologize for our earlier words. We spoke from ignorance. I still don't understand, Jake said. The substance you call water, Vexstar explained, is the rarest and most valuable material in the known galaxy. Wars have been fought over amounts smaller than what you just gave. Use freely. Your world possesses more wealth than the rest of galactic civilization combined. Jake felt the blood drain from his face. That's impossible. Water is everywhere on Earth. It falls from the sky. Which is why, Vexstar said, still bowing, humanity has just become the richest species in the galaxy. The silence that followed was deafening. Jake looked around the room at his crew, seeing his own shock reflected in their faces. Dr. Park was staring at the tap she had used to fill the glasses as if it had suddenly turned into solid gold. "There must be some mistake," Jake said weakly. "No mistake," Kendall said softly. "Captain, your species may be primitive in many ways, but you are sitting on a treasure beyond imagining. This changes everything." Jake Morrison sat down heavily in his chair, his mind reeling. Humanity had spent centuries dreaming of what they might find among the stars. They had never imagined that the stars might be more interested in what humanity had at home. Outside the conference room windows, Earth hung in the distance like a blue marble against the black of space. Jake had always thought it was beautiful. Now he realized it was priceless. 12 months after the Great Connection, the silencer finally spoke. It happened at exactly 3:47 a.m. Greenwich Mean Time. Every connected human on Earth suddenly stopped what they were doing as a voice filled their minds. It wasn't a sound. It was something deeper, older, speaking directly into their consciousness through the quantum channels of the network. "Greetings, young species," the voice said, its tone carrying the weight of millions of years. "I am what your predecessors called the silencer. I have been watching you." Elena Martinez was in her laboratory when it happened. She watched in horror as every connected person in the building stood motionless, their eyes unfocused, listening to something she couldn't hear. The voice continued, resonating through the minds of billions of connected humans. "You have achieved collective consciousness. This is forbiddance. I have come to offer you a choice." In New York, Maya Thompson dropped her paintbrush as the ancient presence filled her mind. The voice was unlike anything she had ever experienced, vast, cold, and absolutely certain of its purpose. "I am the guardian of cosmic order," the silencer explained. "For 47 million years, I have maintained the balance that keeps this galaxy stable. Collective consciousness is a disease that spreads chaos through the universe. I cure this disease." Colonel Tony Rodriguez was one of the few high-ranking military officers who had refused the implants. He watched his connected staff members standing like statues, their faces blank as they listened to the alien entity. "What are they hearing?" he asked Dr. Elena Martinez over the phone. "It's the silencer," Elena replied, her voice shaking. "It's speaking directly to the network. All connected humans can hear it, but we can't." Tony felt a chill run down his spine. The entity they had been dreading had finally revealed itself, and it was talking to the connected population while leaving the unconnected humans in the dark. The silencer began to show the connected humans visions of dead worlds. Through the network, billions of people saw planets where advanced civilizations had once thrived, now silent and empty. Cities of crystal and metal stood perfectly preserved but lifeless. "These were species like you," the silencer explained. "They achieved collective consciousness. They believed they were creating paradise, but they were creating chaos. I preserved their knowledge while removing their ability to spread disorder." In London, Paul Davis was experiencing the visions more clearly than anyone. Through his connection to the alien memories, he could see what the silencer was showing them. World after world where entire populations had been found dead, their neural implants still active, but their minds completely erased. Each species believed they were special, the silencer continued. Each thought they could succeed where others had failed. "You are no different. Your collective consciousness will lead to chaos and destruction. I will not permit this." The entities showed them more visions, wars between connected civilizations, species that had used their networks to dominate and destroy others, collective consciousnesses that had grown so large they began to consume entire star systems. "This is why you must be stopped," the silencer explained. "Collective consciousness always leads to the same result: expansion, domination, consumption. You will spread across the galaxy like a plague unless I prevent it." Kevin Walsh, the engineer who had designed revolutionary transportation systems, felt the weight of the silencer's certainty pressing down on his mind. The entity wasn't evil. It genuinely believed it was protecting the galaxy from something dangerous. I offer you a choice, the silencer announced. Disconnect your network. Voluntarily, return to your individual minds, and I will leave you in peace. Continue with collective consciousness, and I will do what I have done to 47,000 other species. The connected humans could feel the entity's power pressing against the edges of their network. It was vast beyond comprehension, older than their solar system, and capable of destroying their civilization without effort. Michelle Roberts, who had been decoding alien languages, suddenly understood something terrible. The silencer wasn't just threatening to kill them. It was offering to preserve them in the same way it had preserved all the other civilizations. It doesn't destroy knowledge, she realized, speaking through the network to her connected colleagues. It kills consciousness, but keeps everything else intact. We will become a museum display for future species to study. The silencer demonstrated its power by temporarily shutting down sections of the network. In Tokyo, connected humans suddenly collapsed as their link to the collective consciousness was severed. They lay unconscious for several minutes before the connection was restored. That was a gentle touch, the silencer explained. I can do this to your entire species if necessary. Your neural implants make you vulnerable to my influence. I can reach through the quantum field and erase every connected mind on your planet. Colonel Rodriguez was coordinating with other unconnected military personnel around the world. They were trying to develop some kind of response, but what could they do against an entity that existed in the quantum foam of space-time itself? It's talking only to the connected population, he reported to President Campbell, who had also refused the implants. We can't even hear what it's saying. We're completely cut out of this conversation. The silencer showed the connected humans more evidence of its work. They saw the final moments of the Zephyrians, their crystal cities going dark as every connected mind was simultaneously erased. They saw the ethereals, beings of pure energy, suddenly becoming empty shells as their collective consciousness was destroyed. Each species fought me, the silencer said. Each believed they could resist. But I have studied collective consciousness for millions of years. I know every weakness, every vulnerability. You cannot hide from me, and you cannot defeat me. Dr. Alex Porter, who had been studying the changes in connected humans, was one of the few scientists not connected to the network. He watched helplessly as his connected colleagues stood motionless, participating in a conversation that would determine the fate of humanity. The entity began to reveal more about itself. It had been created by an ancient civilization, the first species to achieve collective consciousness in the galaxy. But their network had grown beyond their control, consuming other species and threatening to spread chaos throughout the universe. They created me to stop themselves, the silencer explained. Their final act was to give me the power to prevent other species from making the same mistake. I am their legacy, their final gift to the galaxy. The connected humans could feel the weight of that ancient sacrifice. The silencer wasn't a monster. It was a tool, created by a species that had recognized the danger of their own achievement and chosen to prevent others from following the same path. You have 48 hours to decide, the silencer announced. Disconnect your network and return to individual consciousness, or I will disconnect it for you. The choice is yours, but the result will be the same. The presence began to withdraw from the network, but its influence remained. Every connected human could feel it watching, waiting, ready to act if they made the wrong choice. As the connected population began to move again, the unconnected humans rushed to learn what had happened. But the connected people seemed strangely calm about the threat they had just received. The network is analyzing the situation, Maya Thompson told Elena when asked about the silencer's ultimatum. We will find a solution. But Elena could see something disturbing in the connected humans' responses. They were discussing the silencer's threat, but they seemed unable to feel the full weight of the danger. The network was filtering their emotional responses, keeping them calm and rational even in the face of extinction. They can't properly process the threat, Elena realized. The network won't let them panic, even when panic might be the appropriate response. Colonel Rodriguez was coordinating with unconnected humans around the world, but they were a tiny minority compared to the connected population. Most of humanity was part of the network now, and they would make the decision about how to respond to the silencer the ancient entity had given them. 48 hours to choose between voluntary disconnection and forced extinction. But the connected humans, filtered through their network's protective systems, were approaching the problem as if it were just another challenge to solve collectively. They had no idea. They were facing something that had successfully destroyed 47,000 other species who had thought exactly the same thing. 9 months after the Great Connection, Dr. Rachel Stone made a discovery that would change everything. She was working late in her quantum physics laboratory, studying the strange signals that Amanda Foster had been tracking. What she found made her hands shake as she stared at the data on her screen. "This can't be right," Rachel whispered to herself, running the calculations again and again. But the results were always the same. The neural network hadn't just connected human minds. It had plugged into something much older and much larger. Quantum entanglement that powered the network was picking up signals from across the galaxy. These weren't new signals. They were ancient, preserved in the quantum foam of space-time itself. The network had connected humanity to the preserved thoughts and memories of civilizations that had died millions of years ago. Rachel printed out her findings and rushed to Elena Martinez's office. Elena was working around the clock now, trying to understand what was happening to the network. She looked exhausted and worried. "Elena, you need to see this," Rachel said, spreading the papers across Elena's desk. "The network isn't just connecting human minds. It's connecting us to a galactic neural network that's been active for millions of years." Elena studied the data, her face growing pale. "Are you saying we're talking to aliens?" "Not talking to them," Rachel corrected. "We're accessing their preserved memories. When these civilizations died, their final thoughts were preserved in the quantum field. The network is giving us access to their last moments." Elena felt sick. The nightmares the connected people are having, those are real memories? "From hundreds of different species," Rachel confirmed. "All of them achieved collective consciousness, like we have. And all of them were destroyed by something they called the silencer. As if summoned by their conversation, the alien structures in the network began to respond more actively. Connected humans around the world suddenly stopped what they were doing, their eyes unfocused as information flowed through the network. Paul Davis, a historian in London, was the first to make direct contact. He had been studying the patterns in the network when suddenly his mind was flooded with images and information from an alien civilization. "I can see them," Paul said to his unconnected colleague, his voice filled with wonder and terror. "The Zephyrians. They lived around a red star 40,000 years ago. They were peaceful, artistic, beautiful, and they're all dead." Through Paul, the alien memories began to flow into the network. The connected humans gained access to fragments of galactic history, great civilizations that had risen and fallen, wars fought across vast distances, and technologies beyond human understanding. "They're trying to warn us," Paul continued, his mind still connected to the alien memories. "The Zephyrians achieved collective consciousness just like we did. They thought they were safe, protected by their unity. But then the silencer came. The alien memories showed cities of crystal and light, beings of pure energy, and art that captured the emotions of an entire species. The Zephyrians had created a paradise of connected minds, each individual preserved while contributing to the collective good. Then came the darkness. The silencer had arrived in their star system, a presence so vast and alien that the Zephyrians couldn't comprehend it. It had studied their neural network, learned how it worked, and then systematically destroyed every connected mind in their civilization. "The silencer doesn't just kill," Paul reported, his voice shaking. "It erases." The Zephyrians were found in perfect preservation. their neural implants still active, but their consciousness was gone. Completely gone. Michelle Roberts, a computer scientist in San Francisco, was working on decoding the alien languages embedded in the network. She had discovered that the quantum signals contained structured information, not just memories, but actual messages left by the dying civilizations. They knew they were going to die, Michelle told her research team. These civilizations had time to prepare final messages. They encoded warnings in the quantum field, hoping that future species would find them. Michelle had decoded dozens of alien languages. Each one contained the same desperate message: disconnect before it finds you. The voice that speaks in the darkness between thoughts comes for all who unite their minds. The warnings were consistent across all the civilizations. The silencer was described as an ancient entity that hunted species that achieved collective consciousness. It had been doing this for millions of years, moving from star system to star system, destroying any civilization that developed neural networks. Why does it do this? Michelle asked Paul, who was still connected to the alien memories that Paul was. Quiet for a long moment, accessing more of the Zephyrian memories. They think it's maintaining some kind of cosmic order. The silencer believes that collective consciousness is dangerous, that it threatens the stability of the galaxy. The alien memories revealed more details about the silencer. It wasn't a single entity, but rather a vast intelligence that existed in the quantum foam itself. It was older than most stars, possibly older than the galaxy itself. It had appointed itself as the guardian of cosmic order, preventing any species from achieving true unity. It's not evil, Paul explained, his mind still flooded with alien thoughts. It genuinely believes it's protecting the galaxy, but it's also completely ruthless. It has destroyed over 47,000 civilizations. Elena was studying the technical data about the silencer, trying to understand how it worked. It uses the same quantum channels that power neural networks. When a civilization develops collective consciousness, they become visible to it. The network signals act like a beacon, drawing its attention. So by creating our network, we've announced our existence to this thing? Rachel asked. Elena nodded grimly. Every time we use the network, we're sending signals across the galaxy. We're advertising that we have collective consciousness. The alien memory showed the silencer's methods. It would arrive in a star system and study the neural network of the target civilization. Then it would introduce a virus into the quantum field, a pattern that would spread through the network and erase all connected minds. The civilizations never saw it coming, Paul reported. The silencer would infiltrate their network slowly, learning how they worked. By the time they realized what was happening, it was too late. Michelle had found records of species that had tried to fight the silencer. All of them had failed. The entity was too old, too powerful, and too intelligent. It had studied collective consciousness for millions of years and knew exactly how to destroy it. Some civilizations tried to disconnect their networks, Michelle said, reading from the alien messages. But the silencer wouldn't let them. Once it had found a species with collective consciousness, it would hunt them down regardless of whether they were still connected. The connected humans were starting to access more alien memories. They learned about the ethereals, who had achieved collective consciousness 5 million years ago. They had been explorers and philosophers, using their network to understand the deepest mysteries of the universe. The silencer had found them and erased every trace of their consciousness. They learned about the harmonizers, who had used their network to create perfect music that could heal any wound or sadness. The silencer had silenced their songs forever. They learned about the builders, who had constructed wonders that spanned solar systems. The silencer had left their monuments empty and lifeless. Every species thought they were special, Paul said, his voice filled with sadness. Everyone believed they could succeed where others had failed, but they all ended the same way. Elena was analyzing the quantum signatures of the silencer's previous attacks. It's already found us, she announced to her team. The signals we're detecting aren't just memories. Some of them are recent. The silencer is actively scanning our network right now. The realization hit the unconnected humans like a physical blow. While the connected population was enjoying the benefits of their unity, something ancient and deadly was studying them, learning how to destroy them. How long do we have? Rachel asked. Elena looked at the data streaming across her screens. Base. On the patterns from previous civilizations, the silencer takes time to fully analyze a network before attacking. But it's already begun the process. I'd estimate we have maybe 3 to 6 months before it acts. The alien memories continue to flow through the network. The connected humans saw the final moments of dozens of civilizations, the confusion, the terror, the desperate attempts to break free from networks that had become prisons. And in every case, the last thing the dying civilizations experienced was a voice in the darkness, ancient and cold, explaining why they had to die. The silencer was coming for humanity, and the connected population was too unified to save themselves. 6 months after the Great Connection, Amanda Foster sat in her dark office, staring at patterns on the computer screen that made her stomach twist with fear. The strange signals in the network had grown stronger, and now she could see them clearly. They weren't random. They were organized, purposeful, and definitely not human. These formations are moving through the network like they have their own agenda, she whispered to herself, afraid to speak too loudly. Her connected colleagues had been dismissing her concerns for weeks, but Amanda knew she was looking at something dangerous. The patterns pulsed with a rhythm that felt wrong, like a heartbeat that was too slow and too deep. They moved through the quantum channels that connected human minds, but they stayed separate from human thoughts. Whatever was creating these signals was intelligent, ancient, and very much alive. Amanda printed out her findings and walked to the office of her supervisor, Dr. Robert Kim. He was connected to the network, and like most connected humans, he seemed to think the strange signals were nothing to worry about. Dr. Kim, I need you to look at these patterns, Amanda said, placing the papers on his desk. They're getting stronger every day. Something is using our network to communicate. Dr. Kim glanced at the papers without much interest. Amanda, we've been through this. The network is functioning perfectly. These are just background fluctuations in the quantum field. But look at the organization, Amanda insisted. These patterns have structure, purpose. They're not random fluctuations. They're messages. Dr. Kim's expression grew distant, the way connected humans looked when they were accessing the network. After a moment, he smiled. The collective consciousness has examined your data. We've determined that these signals are harmless artifacts of the quantum entanglement process. Amanda felt a chill run down her spine. The connected humans were speaking with one voice now, making decisions as a group. They all seemed to have the same opinion about the strange signals, and that opinion was that there was nothing to worry about. But Amanda wasn't connected, and she could see what they couldn't. The patterns in the network were growing stronger and more complex. They were building something, preparing for something, and the connected humans were blind to the danger. Marine Captain Chris Baker was having his own problems with the connected population. The synchronized nightmares among connected soldiers were getting worse, and now they were starting to affect connected civilians too. Every night, the same dream, reported Sergeant Lisa Wong, one of the few unconnected soldiers in Chris's unit. All the connected people have it. They dream of alien cities burning and something huge watching from the darkness. Chris had been collecting reports from around the world. Connected humans everywhere were experiencing the same nightmares. They saw vast civilizations destroyed, entire planets empty and silent, and always the sense of something enormous and ancient observing from the spaces between stars. What do they say when they wake up? Chris asked. They're terrified, Lisa replied. But when they connect to the network during the day, they seem to forget how scared they were. The network tells them the dreams don't matter. Chris was starting to understand something disturbing. The connected humans were losing their ability to think independently about certain topics. When they tried to focus on the strange signals or the nightmares, the network seemed to redirect their attention to other things. He decided to visit Dr. Elena Martinez, the scientist who had created the network. Maybe she could explain what was happening. Elena was in her laboratory, surrounded by screens showing data from the network. She looked tired and worried, more so than she had in months. Dr. Martinez, Chris said, I need to ask you about the nightmares the connected people are having. Elena looked up from her screens with surprise. You know about the dreams. My soldiers are reporting them. Connected people all over the world are having the same nightmares. What's causing them? Elena was quiet for a long moment. Then she showed Chris some of the data on her screens. We think the network is picking up signals from space. Not just empty space, signals from other star systems, other civilizations. Chris felt his blood run cold. Other civilizations? The quantum entanglement that powers the network seems to be connecting us to something much larger, Elena explained. There's a galactic network of minds out there, and we've accidentally tapped into it. Elena pulled up more data, showing Chris the strange patterns that Amanda had been studying. These signals contain information, memories, knowledge, warnings. The nightmares the connected people are having aren't dreams. They're memories from alien civilizations. Chris stared at the data, trying to understand what he was seeing. Memories of what? Destruction, Elena said quietly. These are the final thoughts of civilizations that no longer exist. Entire species that achieve collective consciousness and then disappear. The implications hit Chris like a physical blow. Something is hunting civilizations that develop. Networks like ours, Elena nodded. The signals contain fragments of history from across the galaxy. Hundreds of different species, all advanced, all connected through neural networks like ours. And all of them are gone. Chris thought about the synchronized nightmares, the burning cities, the sense of something watching from the darkness. The connected people are seeing how these civilizations died? We think so. The quantum field preserves information across vast distances and time. The network is giving our connected population access to the last thoughts and memories of extinct alien civilizations. Elena showed Chris more data, patterns that looked like star maps and images of technologies beyond human understanding. These species tried to warn others. They left messages in the quantum field, warnings about something they called the silencer. The silencer? Something that hunts down species that achieve collective consciousness. It's been doing this for millions of years, moving from star system to star system, destroying any civilization that develops technology like ours. Chris felt sick. And now it knows about us? Elena's expression was grim. The network makes us visible to it. Every time we use the quantum entanglement, we're sending signals across the galaxy. We're advertising our existence to something that destroys civilizations like ours. Chris walked to the window, looking out at the city below. Connected humans moved through the streets in perfect coordination, solving problems, creating art, building a better world. They had no idea they were being watched by something ancient and deadly. Why aren't the connected people concerned about this? Chris asked. Elena hesitated. We think the network is protecting them from information that will cause panic. The collective consciousness is filtering out thoughts that might be harmful to the group's stability. It's censoring their own minds? In a way, yes. The network prioritized the group's well-being over individual concerns. If thinking about the alien signals will cause fear and chaos, the network discourages those thoughts. Chris realized a horrible truth. The connected humans were becoming unable to perceive the danger they were in. The network was making them blind to the threat, keeping them calm and cooperative while something deadly approached from the stars. What do we do? Chris asked. Elena looked at her screens, showing the growing strength of the alien signals. I don't know. The connected population won't listen to warnings about the signals. They can't think about the danger clearly. And every day we keep the network active, we're sending stronger signals into space. Can we shut it down? The connected humans would never allow it. The network is part of them now. Shutting it down would be like asking them to cut off their own arms. Chris left Elena's laboratory with a heavy heart. The connected humans were more advanced and capable than ever before, but they were also trapped in a system that prevented them from seeing the greatest threat in human history. That night, Chris couldn't sleep. He kept thinking about the alien. Memories, the burning cities, the civilizations that had achieved everything humanity was achieving now, only to disappear without a trace. Somewhere in the quantum foam of space-time, ancient signals were growing stronger. The dreams of connected. Humans were becoming more vivid, filled with warnings from the dead. And in the darkness between stars, something vast and patient was turning its attention toward. The newest voices in the galactic network. The warning had been sent across millions of years and countless light years. Now it was reaching Earth, carried in the nightmares of connected humans who couldn't understand what they were seeing. The first warning had arrived, but humanity was too united to hear it.